Hello, people. So, hope you are doing good. Our today's guest is Mr. Shivam Dave, currently a ML engineer at Infocus, offers many years of experience in software development, data science, machine learning. He has been extensively working on intersection of large language models and code synthesis. His expertise lies in solving challenging AI-centered problems with value-focused critical thinking. His curiosity lies in the subject of unification and centralization of generative AI capabilities. So now let's talk with him directly. Hi Shun.
Hello.
So we can start with how was your journey to being from a background of biomedical engineering
Mm.
and then becoming a ML engineer like a big firm.
Yes, sure. First of all, thanks, Neil, and obviously thank Shesha for inviting me to this talk. Okay, yeah. So I would like to start. Yeah, I would like to start with my journey. Yeah. So uh, till second year, I was completely clueless, like what to do. Uh, in third year, suddenly I got to know about Smart India Hackathon. So in there, uh, our professor encouraged us to participate, and there, that was the first case where actually I came to know about the term AI. Actually, so the competition was early detection of sepsis, is a
Mhm.
basically disease. So you are supposed to detect or forecast the possible anomalies of your disease for the patients. So we participated in that. So at that time, I was knowing nothing. I had no clue like what is this. I was not even knowing Python.
Mhm.
I was just only aware about C++ language.
So just
And
wanted to explore about these
yeah,
new projects.
at the time, in the beginning of third year, I joined this competition, and so like, I was not confident enough, but with a very huge insistence of our professor, just got into it. So uh, I don't know, but I started preparing for that without worrying about what might happen, as I was actually completely from a zero background, actually.
Mhm.
So I just so at the time actually the I started with Andrew Ng machine learning course, and
The god of
I
machine.
yeah, obviously the godfather of machine learning, and almost I think everyone who is into it will be almost knowing him actually. And along with that, as my use case was around forecasting, that is mostly around deep learning, and internally in that deep learning, we were working for recurrent neural networks. I then took my so after just completing finishing that course, I diverged myself toward that specialization, which was also available on Coursera. So I got uh, uh, enough time to explore that, and then came the idea, and then came the date of submission, where we submitted that, and to my surprise, we won state level competition actually, and
Oh,
we went for
nice.
finals. Yeah, so yeah, that actually motivated me and made me believe that uh, if you have a strong desire, you can actually obviously do anything, and that's I feel that's a human nature for everyone. Okay, so that motivated me to actually pursue AI as my long-term career, because there I realized that actually this might be there I realized the potential of it, and I somehow felt that this might be a game changer for future, actually, and
Mhm.
it is now.
Yeah,
Uh,
ChatGPT.
yeah, yeah, obviously. So then, based upon that, I also chose my final project, which was centered around AI. So basically, my project was basically centered around computer vision, which is mostly dealing with image data. So that was somehow a complex project. So there also I got to learn a lot of things. And based upon these two profiles, which built some experience in my resume, I got an internship, an America-based startup, who was an early age startup. So it was a remote job, not actually a job, but an internship. So I joined that, and from there, actually, I got to learn a lot of things, that how actually things work in real life. And before, even if I complete my internship, I got a full-time offer from a Pune-based company, that was Rapid Request Solutions. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that started my journey as a full-time machine learning engineer, because somehow the project which I was working during my internship was somehow, as it was an early age startup. So the responsibilities on every developer, on every engineer was hugely high, actually, because the team was about only 12 people. And out of only 4 people were technical. So, and the whole solution, the whole pipeline building was, we were responsible for that. So, yeah, so that actually built a very strong profile for what you say is AI or machine learning. And because of that, I got a full time offer in one of the service firms, that is Rapid Request Solutions. And and I continued that for about 4 months, because I was a full time machine learning engineer at that firm. And after 4 months, I got an offer from the same company, that is the one which I got intern, for a full time offer, actually.
Oh, nice.
And yes, after 4 months of joining there, I got a full time offer there. And and as I was quietly aware about the kind of work we were doing as a part of my internship, I quickly joined that, because I was also loving that work. So yeah, and yeah, I worked there for about 5.5 months, and then I then actually the work which we were doing earlier was actually, see, the startup which I was where I was interning, actually started around the lockdown. Okay, so it was a use case around the hygiene, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as 2022 got started, actually, we saw things getting normal, right? So the demand of that startup got down. Okay, so there was this, I would say, a huge pay cut in those salaries and all those things. So for that reason, they had tough time in actually running that. So
So
we,
they might be lay off some person or some.
sorry.
So they might be like shorten down their team or lay off in some team person and
Yes,
down.
sure, sure. So actually, what happens, like, startups are really very good for learning, but they are highly uncertain, for the reason that
Not secure.
yeah, yeah, they address a specific use case, and the actually there is no long term goal for that. I would not say for everyone, but for most of them. Because longer sustainability is dependent upon what idea you have, how much you are innovating, and how much how you are serving to clients, and what USP you are holding over the time. And
Hmm.
what actually happened with that startup, that that USP was really very high with the advent of lockdown, because everyone was hygiene conscious, right?
Hmm.
So almost every industry was looking after an automated solution, a video analytics solution powered by a CCTV camera, which can actually monitor the hygiene in company and can log the results into a dashboard. So that's where the computer vision technology, like what we say, object detection, the tracking, object tracking, and these technologies were being used, actually. So
Hmm.
it was profitable, but as we see, the goal was short-term, actually. So
Hmm.
with the fall of COVID, there was a fall of this requirement as well. So that was a quite a hard time for that, and so I had to also leave that. And yeah, so that was the end of my journey there. and yeah, so I was jobless. So then I started. Yeah, obviously, after being jobless, you start applying to plethora of companies. So in my case as well, I applied to n number of startups and number of the firms we call, and got interviews from them and got selected for some of them. And meanwhile also I applied for Infocus Innovations, an Ahmedabad based company. uh, so uh, like that was the first time I came across this company, because I was not knowing like it was even existent. So I tried to explore the kind of work they were doing, and to my surprise, like the work was highly what even sometimes I feel that it's tough to define, because the work was really very fantastic. I will,
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming over on that, but the work was really fantastic, and certainly this was the biggest indicator for me to actually apply. And as it was in Ahmedabad, that is my hometown, so I quickly applied for it, and hopefully I got the call from HR. And after clearing almost 6 rounds of interview, I got into Infocus. So
Oh,
now it's where it has been. I have been here since 1 year. Like I'm finishing my 1 year in the May, 9th of May. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey so far. Yes, this is how I started and continuing this thing.
yeah, our story was
Yes.
literally inspiring one for anyone, because like from not being a from being a like, different background and going to like a different role is like big difficult task. And many people like put their idea down because like they felt like they are not capable, or like their surrounding environment will say like, what you are doing, you have learned this. So like
Hmm.
going from them also like it's a like great job from your hand.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah. Hmm.
so let's start with like some of the like trending topics around ML. Like
Hmm.
recently, like ChatGPT is in boom. So like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, yeah, I will be coming upon that. But before, I would like to actually break one myth about this thing. See, uh, it doesn't matter like people blaming our education system as far as engineering is concerned. Like it is very obvious, and it's a tradition. People blaming about the engineering systems of India. But what I actually feel that we all agree that we have learned very advanced mathematics.
Yeah.
Yes, statistics, probability,
Hmm.
and actually, see, these things are ultimately the most fundamental things to be functional in AI. Okay,
Yeah.
so my point is that anyone with an engineering degree can work in AI after brushing their software fundamentals as well.
Yeah. That's also a
Yeah,
point.
so even I had to do that. So yeah, so it's not like because we from an engineering background. Not I'm not setting a bias here, but I would like to make my point logically correct based upon this statement that we all know that we have solved mathematical problems which requires good amount of critical thinking, right?
Hmm.
So working in AI, especially in those roles where your work is highly responsive, in that case you require a demonstration of good analytical capability and deep critical thinking skills. And this is the thing which you might have practiced if you have been solving mathematics for a longer period of time. Okay, and this is where I would like to argue that any engineer can get into it, provided that they are truly passionate about it and are ready to brush up their software fundamentals, because ultimately this technology is actually a software, right? So you need to know like how to actually bring value onto the table by being functionally efficient in both software and AI. So this was the thing I would like to make this point today.
Yeah,
That
that was like great tip from your end, because like people
mhm.
will see like if they have some skill, like if they are interested in statistics, and if they also have some software fundamentals, then they can explore this field also.
Yes, sure. Yes. So in fact, it's all about passion. When you have passion, there's no one stopping you.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it is only this thing actually, because only when you do something, the people will believe you. So so it's only a path between not doing to doing something. So
Yeah.
that is the only thing. And yeah, so like let me now enter the trending things going on over here for a while. So before starting into it, I have also been working on this technology for a longer period of time because, yeah, so our company is working with Google X.
Hmm.
Google X is actually a research wing of Alphabet, which is a parent company of Google,
Hmm.
and also the Google Research. So that was actually the biggest USP of this company, working collaboratively with the research scientists and applied scientists of Google X. So I have been working on this development of this large language models for a while, and ChatGPT is also a similar kind of thing. Actually, it all started with the invention of transformers in 2017 by Google Research. Actually,
Okay.
when they invented transformers, there's a kind of architecture which can actually process text. That is the way we consume text, understand it, and respond it. The way transformers used to work.
Hmm.
And then Microsoft started working on their own variant of that transformer. They called it GPT, Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So
Hmm.
basically, uh, actually, with the advent of ChatGPT and with the advent of this GPT-4, we have now entered into an era of actual intelligence. Okay, actual artificial intelligence. Okay, till now, the actually the area of artificial intelligence was around learning. Actually, okay, we were building models which were actually learning from the data. They never had any intelligence in them. Okay, so
Hmm.
yeah, again, this can be actually highly be subjective, because intelligence, what exactly intelligence is something which has been an age old question for even scientists as well. But the models we were building before the chat gpt era, that is almost 4 months ago. So they were like, you throw them data and they will learn like you. Okay,
Hmm.
so that was till before ChatGPT, we were making models learn the same way humans learn. They were actually not intelligent. They had these limited capabilities. Okay. Now, after we got this ChatGPT, uh, things got changed actually, because you ask it anything, it will demonstrate its ability to reason and generate responses which are in the favor of your problem. Okay, so technically speaking, ChatGPT and is actually the the model. ChatGPT is derived from GPT model, which I discussed with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That GPT full form is Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Okay, and that is the same model which Google derived in 2017, with some changes. Uh, so the theory, the intelligence, or the surprising fact about ChatGPT lies in the fact that they were trained on almost all internet data available. Okay, and the model itself is very large.
Hmm.
Okay,
So it
so
might be
there are two.
having a database
Mhm.
also,
Yeah.
collected large
So
database and all.
yeah. So they had access to multi modal, not multi-modal, but variety of data, whatever was available across the internet, and the model was very large. By large, it doesn't mean that by large I mean that it was sequentially very large. That was, there were many layers sequentially, one after other, one after other, one after other, one after other. Okay,
Hmm.
so uh, what actually made this chat gpt is these two things: the data and the uh, the largeness of the model.
Hmm.
So I would like to put one thing over here, like how the largeness is related to building reasoning capabilities, solution, problem solving capabilities in model. So what happens? Let's say that you are given a, you know about graphs, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Directed acyclic graphs and whatever we name it.
Yeah.
And when we appear for an interview, we might not get that directly question that this is the graph you have to traverse and create a solution. This is not directly mentioned in problems, which are actually, we say, medium to hard level problems of whatever company you choose. Uh, you will not be directly said to solve this using this. Okay.
Hmm.
If I talk about I don't remember right now, but there was this problem about a matrix in which there is an horse and there is another object, and we had to find out like where exactly the meet and for how many times, and that was being solved by a graph and probably a BFS algorithm, a search algorithm, and from that we were deriving like, okay, it is meeting this much of time, and this is what it was supposed to be. So now, why I'm saying this, because there was a problem and there was the solution. But in between that, what was actually this thing was critical thinking skills. Okay,
Yeah.
we actually got this problem, which was structured like there is a horse, there is a matrix in which there is a it travels along the matrix, and it you have to do this kind of thing. Okay, now this is not related to this thing like there is a graph, you have to do this thing, but there is some analogy in between them. Okay,
Yeah. So
so that
that's the main thing. Like if the person gets that, then only he could be able to answer that. Otherwise,
yeah,
won't.
yeah, obviously. So finding analogies between things help us to solve problems. Okay,
Hmm. That's true.
okay. So as the layers in the model get increased, that capability increases.
Hmm.
They get connect because they are finding, as ultimately all the data, you name it, is being fed to the model, and because of its largeness, it is finding analogy. It is learning analogies between different things. Okay,
Hmm.
it is learning analogies just as we learn, and that's the reason when you ask it, it connects to the analogy and generates the response, and that is what we call as magic or surprise, or whatever you name it, and that's how it works. So there is when we try to get into more into it, it is not as complex as it is, but it is the same way we learn or we solve a problem.
Hmm.
So it is just like that. And
So,
yeah,
so it was a like good understanding. Like if anyone is layman, then he can directly understand like what you say and
yeah,
what they are expecting from ChatGPT.
yeah, obviously. So it is like there are limitations because as the AI systems are getting more and more advanced, there will always be new limitations, and there will always be, even if it taking, even if someone argues that it is taking jobs, but there will be new job roles which will be created actually. And I will also be coming up onto that as well. So yeah, so this is what we call as chat gpt, and the newest version of it, it is GPT-4. Okay, and the GPT-4 is actually much more larger than ChatGPT. So you can expect the analogy that what I said was, as it gets more and more deeper, it gets more and more intelligent. So you can expect what GPT-4 can do, and it is already doing a lot of things.
So more surprises will come. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. In fact, not uh, we can expect, we are in the era of leaning towards AGIs. Okay, AGI, that is, I would like to define as artificial general intelligence. Okay,
Hmm.
those of you who have might have watched Terminator movie might be knowing about this thing. So it is not completely at this stage, but in somehow in future. By future I mean in 6 months, 8 months, or any year, we will be will be having more and more surprises. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so like that was a like brief about ChatGPT and trending things. So let's go like in the basic thing, like when you were like learning ML. So what were the difficulties you were facing? Because like if
Okay.
someone new wants to come in ML like field, then how he should go? Because like he might also face the same difficulties.
Yeah, obviously the level of difficulties which we do feel, there is some commonness among all the people who actually
Yeah.
jump into AI. And the thing is, the see, this theories, when we try to learn it, might seem complex when at first sight actually. So my problem was that when I started learning, the only problem I faced was I had to revert back to the same theory to get deepest intuitions of that, to get much more, to get much more sense about how it is actually working. Okay, so it started from getting theories into the brains. Okay, and then obviously struggling with the software fundamentals as well. Okay,
Hmm.
so I actually noticed this thing very earlier, that the software fundamentals are very necessary. So I just quickly brushed up them. So I got my fundamentals cleared. So this is how I cleared my one of the major setbacks, that is clearing software fundamentals. And the other thing where I was struggling with the theories, I started reading research papers.
Hmm.
Because what was happening, when I started learning from Andrew Ng course, the explanation was very simplified. So whenever I wanted to learn something new which was actually very complex in its form, my brain was prepared that I will get a very simplified form of that. So I couldn't digest the complexities of that. So what I did, I started reading ML papers, research papers. Okay, anyone chooses to read papers can directly go to the papers with code website, can just pick any paper, at least try to get the sense of what actually the paper is doing, not actually the intricate details of that, but at least it will build a mentality of digesting complex things. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is one thing where I would like to add something as a suggestion, that someone aspiring to work in AI should have the discipline, should have this habit to read research papers.
Hmm.
And this one thing can might seem very confusing at the start, but once you are into it, the theoretical part of getting the complexities of things will become much more easier for you. So this was this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like because reading research paper would add on yet their knowledge also and
Yeah.
would have some critical thinking also.
Yeah, and it will actually be the knowledge without any bias, without
Yeah.
any YouTube content bias, because as we see that with the advent of new technology, there is so much hype. Okay, our society builds an endless hype of these things. Okay, so you see average content everywhere. Okay, so you have to be very careful about what to prefer or not. Okay, because this can be misleading at times, and there are a lot of people and there are a lot of communities, and we see selling courses on AI, but they are worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are just attractive sort of thing. They're marketing sort of thing,
Yeah.
and they are not like worthy to be like
Yeah,
bought.
they're absolutely not worthy. And with the advent of ChatGPT and GPT-4, you don't really require these things, because uh, I'm not sure of Chat. I think the ChatGPT has a paid version now, but
Yeah,
even
premium.
yeah, but even it is not that much costly than paying for an AI course for an year, right? So now you can just ask it and can get all the things which you want and a personalized one. Okay, not being scattered across all the courses, and it will act as a mentor, an educator, and you name it, and it will work. So you should now actually change your mindset while being focused into working in this. Yeah.
Oh, that satisfies the answer because like people will see like using ChatGPT, they will learn now.
Yeah, obviously. No, I'm not saying that the teachers are being useless, but at least the plethora of people who are actually jumping into it, like I would like to say बैती गंगा में हाथ धोने वाले जो लोग थे,
Hmm.
उनका शायद दुकान बंद हो सकता है, बिकॉज देखो
I
हर
agree.
कोई इंसान हर किसी चीज के लिए बना नहीं होता. नॉट एवरीवन इज मेड फॉर ऑलमोस्ट एवरीथिंग एक्चुअली. देर आर
Hmm.
लॉट ऑफ देर आर a bunch of people, okay, who are passionately teaching or pursuing AI or whatever it is, even if it's software engineering, okay. But the problem is with the people who are actually building brands, building YouTube, building money by selling motivation, by selling greed in name of motivation, okay, by
Hmm.
selling dream in the name of career. So you have to
Yeah,
be careful about these people. Yeah.
that's true, really true.
Yeah.
So like you have worked in startup and you are also like worked with like big MNC. So what like you can just give us like small difference between working there?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. So, as I said in the beginning, that when you join an early age startup, like there are even different categories of startup as well. Okay. Uh, there are those startups who are freshly started, even they might not even have an office. They have got an investment. They have a very fresh use case defined. They have got some bunch of clients, and they have started working on that. So the teams are small. So in that teams, if you join this startups of this category, the the pros of this thing will be that you get to learn a lot of things because you will ultimately have responsibility of a lot of people, right? So the learning curve will be very steep in the case of startup. And I will also recommend people to join startup. I'm not actually setting any bias here, but it's just that what I experienced, that because my experience was that like I got to learn so many things, okay, which I might never, which I might have never imagined by just joining an MNC through a campus placement, right? Because we know actually what actually happens in campus placements and what kind of work we are getting after joining placements. So
Yeah.
actually you have this responsibility or sense of ownership when you work at a startup. You have this sense of ownership that you are responsible for everything, so you are disciplined enough and responsible enough to build, and your work directly goes, or your work directly brings value to the table, okay.
Hmm.
So the learning as well as the exposure when you join an early startup is really very unparalleled, but only in the case when you actually join a good startup, because you need to differentiate because what is actually a good startup versus what actually is not. So, and in the MNC you have little less responsibility than startup, but you have, and in the case of MNC as well, it is not like that. There are plenty of MNCs, but hardly even very few of them are working technologically or something which we should be proud of. Okay,
Hmm.
so ultimately, as far as the work is concerned, as far as the projects is concerned, you need to identify that what actual work they are doing and how will you be contributing into them, irrespective of it is a startup or irrespective if it is an MNC.
Hmm.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, that was nice difference between like working in startup or working in MNC. So like
Yes.
you had work on real world projects. So how is different between like working on a project in like school or college or somewhere, and how's the like real world project here
Yeah.
in industry?
Yeah, I wanted, yeah. I was quite excited about this thing because what actually happens that there is this one thing which differentiates college projects to the real world projects. Okay, in college projects, the problem is clearly defined. Okay, and the data set is also clearly defined. Okay,
Hmm.
but it is highly contradictory to what we get into the real world. The problem is not defined. The data is not defined. Okay. If I give an example, there was this. We are probably aware about the company called Spotify,
Yeah.
okay? And they have this song recommendation system,
Hmm.
right? Uh, so there was one use case where uh, they wanted to increase more revenue. They wanted to make their system better so that they can get more and more users. Okay,
Hmm.
so there was this one junior engineer, a junior data scientist, joined, just told the team, let's hey let's because he was freshly he was a fresher, right?
Hmm.
And he was very much excited about this so-called state of the art complex models which we call as AI. So he just told the team that let's build a good recommendation system which can bring a good revenue for it. Okay,
Hmm.
without actually accessing that whether the recommendation system is only the significant factor contributing to the revenue of the company. Okay,
Hmm.
it might be that by changing UI you can get a significant revenue, and that what actually happened by
Hmm.
just changing a UI a little bit. There was this significant rise in the revenue without even building a recommendation system.
Hmm.
So that's actually the difference between an experienced and a fresher. The fresher, when it comes from a background of freshly learned ML algorithms or deep learning algorithms, they always have this bias that every problem is supposed to be solved using AI because it's their title. Okay, it is not like that. In real world, many times the problem is not even defined, and you have to think from a perspective without any bias. Okay,
Hmm.
so the first thing in real world is how to identify the problem and how to think of a solution without any bias. Okay,
Hmm.
in college projects, to just build our CV, we do modeling. So there is always this thing that we might lose the fairness of working in projects in
Hmm.
college projects compared to the real world. So, and
Hmm.
the other thing is the data. Okay, so anyone who has worked and has built models as a part of their college projects, they might have always worked with the benchmark data sets which has been released by the community. Okay, and those data sets are already very clean. Okay, you don't have to worry about the quality of the data. Okay, you just build models, you just keep on building complex models, just combining n number of models together and getting a ridiculous 0.001% raise in the accuracy and building a thesis on top of that, right? So this doesn't work. Even though I would like, even though the Kaggle projects, okay, I think you people might have heard about Kaggle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even they are very actually different from the real world, because even in that case as well, the problem is clearly defined
Hmm.
and the data is already there, right? So the only responsibility for you is to build models, just build any combination of it, and just get into the top of it. And that's the only thing which actually separates real world from college.
Okay.
But as far as Kaggle is concerned, it's a good platform to learn. Even I have also participated in that.
Hmm.
Uh, so when someone starts, it it can you can think Kaggle as a practice platform, just like Geek for Geeks. Okay,
Hmm.
so you can take Kaggle as a practice platform to build or to practice ML theories into practical, but not it's not real world. Yeah, so that is what a huge difference between the real world and the college projects, I guess.
that answers well, because like how to be practice real world projects is also like good thing for like college student or someone
Yeah,
if they are pursuing in the ML field or something.
yeah, sure.
So, like basically ML field is also like we practically say AI, ML, data science is like collaborating fields. So what to say on that? Like how to differentiate them?
Yeah, yeah, obviously. So actually, what happens that it all starts with AI. Basically, on a very high level, everything is data science.
Hmm.
Even AI is, even this chat GPT is also a data science, because what exactly it is, the technology is developed using data, right? We as a human are
Hmm.
always consuming data, and from that we are learning and we are responding, and there is always a science behind it, and that's where the term comes, data and science. And that's what a larger umbrella under which everything comes up. It is machine learning, deep learning, and in deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, or something like that. Okay. So in industry, there are a wide variety of roles for data science.
Hmm.
Uh, it might be that when you are a data scientist, the work you are doing is just a work of a data analyst. That is, you are building just that you have a data and you are just building plots and you are just interpreting the results. Okay. And there
Hmm.
can be the other role where you have a title of data scientist, but you are building data pipelines to gather data from raw sources and uh, store it to a format which can be used for real life modeling.
Hmm.
And then we call as machine learning engineers. So see, uh, the intersection between the kind of work you are doing and your title is highly dependent upon the company you are working. Okay.
Hmm.
Because some company might define a title of a data scientist, but the actual work is not, which is supposed to be a part of a data scientist. Okay.
Hmm.
But as far as MNCs are concerned, or as far as good MNCs are concerned, then their roles are quietly clarified. Like you get to work on the things which are defined in the job description. Okay. And the actual work of data scientist is, it was not actually uh, which we call as AI. Okay. It was
Hmm.
something that they were statisticians. Okay. They were initially the statisticians, which we called themselves as data scientists. Okay. They were mostly working with the kind of Excel type data. Okay.
Hmm.
They were building some statistical models like logistic regression and decision trees to interpret the kind of pattern in those data, and they were communicating these patterns with the business people, and that's how they were producing value, and that's how the term data scientist was coined. Okay. And
Hmm.
then the data scientist role was slowly transitioned into deep learning role, where we are getting to see chat gpt like models which is based upon this technology called NLP, and the computer vision models, where you might have heard about this DALI model from the OpenAI, the text to image models. That is a
Yeah.
computer vision technology. So yeah, so this is how the roles. Even if I try to define, uh, there is a huge confusion in the industry as well. Okay, so for a simple note, you can think everything as a data science. Okay,
Hmm.
and based upon the kind of theories which you are working and the kind of data which you are working, you can then categorize. If you are working with image, you are working in computer vision. You are working with CNNs, convolutional neural networks. You are working with text. You are working with the so-called transformers. And if you are working with tabular data, you are working with the so-called decision trees, XGBoost, and logistic regression. So this is how the things are defined. Yeah.
So that clarifies that all things are differentiated but branched in data science. Like if I put it forward.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So it was very nice to talking with you. Like share, like you shared your experience, and it is really inspiring. And I feel like many people will get inspiration from your experience, and will surely contact you. And like I will share your contact with them if they are.
Sure.
And it was like our honor to be like you have came to our community.
It was my honor as well.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.